a telephone call in Lagos, all the way from Zaria. I heard the voice of the young man, Babangida. I said, do I know you? Have we met? What do you want? Sorry, sir, to worry you. It's about your regime. I said, what regime? He said, the Babangida regime. We are trying to arrange something, a symposium. There has been a lot of misconception about your regime. So we went on and on and on. I said, sorry, I don't know you. I've had such calls in the past from some of the media. They spoke in very negative form. Maybe this was another one. Say, if you want me to participate in whatever you are suggesting, please put something on paper. Quickly, the following week, I got the details for which the whole program was based. We have left office over 7 years. In those 7 years, we've had and received nothing but negative by the IBP regime. Even a little joke yesterday on my way here. A young man, I think he was one of these airport correspondents. Where are you heading, sir? I said, this is a free country, I'm heading home. Then I suppose you are going to Jos. I said, what's happening in Jos? They are discussing your regime. What do you do with that regime? They have an observation. I said, what observation? Then how come we hear about Buhari and India's administration coming or Babangida Ukiwe IFOM regime? I said, my friend, this is some of the rhetoric from you media. I asked him, have you heard of Clinton Al Gore regime? He said, that is different, sir. Have you heard of Alaji Shehu Shagari and Dr. Ekweme's regime? No, sir. I said, he who wears the cap, he who is the king wears the crown. Whatever rhetoric you must have had, we have one captain in the ship. In any given time, we have a president and commander-in-chief that's always in the saddle. So I have to thank the organizers. I'm really very happy to be here. I didn't expect to see some of our friends, some of our colleagues, some I haven't seen for the past 7 years. Looking around the audience, is nothing else. This symposium is already starting on a very successful note. It is with delight that I join the organizers to welcome all of you to this history-making symposium. I am particularly pleased with the caliber of the attendance at this event, which includes past high-ranking officials of the various spheres of government, current highly respected leaders, especially elected state governors or their representatives, and their commissioners, distinguished senators, honorable members of the Federal House of Representatives, and state houses of assembly from across the country, other notable statesmen, distinguished journalists, of course, academics, intellectuals, and commentators of public affairs. This symposium provides a deep sense of structural relief from many years of keeping mute, from articulating well-known facts about the recent and contemporary history of our country. I was present at the origin and beginning of the Babangida regime. I was present when the regime came to an end. Indeed, I was not only a keen witness to historical events, but also an inner chamber actor in government and in the regime. While I can testify to areas of deficit, I can also testify with impeccable credentials about the numerous challenges, contributions, and assets to national development made by that regime. I'm not about to provide any testimony or a preface to my memoir, which in any case will not be too long now before they are published and presented to the general public. But I am tempted by today's historical gathering to provide some token oversight on what really happened. I am not a lead speaker at this symposium, yet I must say it loud and clear that events are not as bad as sections of the media and other opinion leaders and formulators have tended to dramatize since the end of that regime in August 1993. Your Excellency, you are very welcome. I have looked forward to seeing you. You are welcome on board. You are welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the arrival of the Governor of Niger State. Of that regime to building the infrastructures of the contemporary state of this nation. At its origin, the regime was propelled by great challenges about the economy, society, and the political processes. It went about its programs of economic, political, and social reforms with a clear methodology, focus, philosophy, dedication, and devotion, such that many structural breakthroughs were undertaken. Details of these breakthroughs will obviously be identified for appraisal at this symposium alongside the difficulties of the regime. I wish, however, to provide a broad sweep in three distinct areas. Firstly, the economic reforms of the regime constituted a major breakthrough in the development of Nigeria. The regime was bold and far-sighted enough to perceive the focus of historical globalization, and it was thereby quite ingenious in undertaking market-oriented reforms. This was before the command economies of communism collapsed in the defunct Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. The reform policies were articulated in the 1986 budget as the process of the program of structural adjustment. I have no doubt in my mind that this is the first package of a dramatic change in the economic arena that has ever happened to Nigeria. Nigeria has not gone beyond the forces of the regulation of economic and social activities since these forces were inaugurated by the IBB regime. Understandably, Change, and particularly socio-economic change, embodied costs and pain. The regime was therefore confronted with problems of having to cope with the pains and costs which Nigerians, and particularly the poorer segments of our people, had to bear under the structural adjustment program. The instrument of social cost reduction included DFRI, People's Bank, NDE, Community Bank, and NEFOM, to name a few among many others. Secondly, the regime undertook very massive political reforms, previously unknown to programs of transition to civil rule in this country. The issues which the regime had to deal with at that time on this front included the opening of the political space by decreasing partisan political activities, formation of political parties, along through broad tendencies of statecraft, the resurgence of new forces in the ranks of the political class, growth and empowerment of civil society organizations, and indeed empowerment of the press. Indeed provided the active test of the regime's political will. But it must be stated, even more to the hearing of those who do not want to listen, that the dividends and impact of the political reform program of the IBB ECHO were unavailable. Thirdly, I have no doubt in my mind about the gains of the regime in the domain of foreign policy and external relations. Securing chairmanship of the United Security Council of the country by the massive support for a Nigerian candidate for the office of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Similarly, support for and securing the office of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth by a Nigerian candidate, and the country's role in the founding of the South-South Commission. Nigeria, under the IBB regime, advanced the permanent interest of the country, protected Nigerian citizens abroad, and was mutually reciprocated, respected, and acknowledged by the rest of the world. The regime was no doubt besetted by a number of problems. This included the series of abortive coups which caused enormous distraction from both governors and effective implementation of the multifaceted program of reforms, workers and students' riots, as well as mutual and religious conflicts. In resolving issues of statecraft, the regime was largely collective in leadership and responsibility. The high watermark of the regime's scorecard was arguably the wave of the undercurrent leading to the presidential election of June 12, 1993. The annulment of that election and the subsequent crisis, which involved the exit of both the leadership and the regime in August 1993. But it must be acknowledged that there are very fundamental issues of reform and dividends of governance which touch very deeply the lives of the people during the regime of IBB. Debilitating to the cause of democracy as certainly was, yet the IBB regime was fundamentally much more than the tale of June 12. Lead speakers and participants at this symposium will no doubt dwell upon the varieties of issues under that regime slated for this gathering. I have no doubt in my mind that in conceptualizing and organizing this symposium, the organizers have broken new ground in contemporary times. Not long ago, the socio-political and security climate could not have encouraged any meaningful understanding of the recent and contemporary history of this great country. Yes. Okay, as it was announced earlier on by Kure, Executive Governor of Niger State, Excellencies representing government, my former political members of the former AS party, and my former colleagues in the National Executive Council, and in case I've left out anybody, dear friends. The invitation which the Africans denied for 2000, I delivered the 2000 Lagos State University Composition Lecture, and I said to the top of that lecture, quote, that shouting across rivers Niger and Benue must stop. The act of speaking to each other and listening to each other must begin. I assume that this invitation is the response to that speech. You have my profile before you. I am that strange creature who has been called an adjective and an affected. Therefore, you cannot be under any illusion that all that I have to do is agree with you. Just introduce the invitation to me, and I congratulate you for your courage. In the last 20 years or so of the history of Nigeria, those of us in Lagos and those who live in Lagos as well have had the privilege of hearing at first hand that Bala Usman, the Abubakar Remy, and the Maitama movement of Nigeria definition of youth. These are people who would give you in order that they are advocates of the Northern agenda. But often enough, the habit has been to invite Southerners whom you know will agree with your views. But of what benefit is it to Nigeria or to you as a whole? If all you hear is an echo of your own views. Your own invitation to me is a markedly welcome departure from this party, and I thank you for it. We will see people from different political zones sitting on the public and university platform located in other zones. All the nationalities in this country have coded and rational arguments which can be used to express their grievances and fears. That there is no need for a vehicle to obtain or assist language. People are less likely to engage in negotiation, and people are less likely to reach a compromise if still at peace and offended. Let me leave you with the immortal words of the Nigerian. Quote, civility is not a sign of peace, and cruelty is not a sign of strength. I, as a political scientist, and as a minor actor, in
some of the episodes in the history of this nation welcome this improvement. In the past year or so, Nigeria has been inundated with different versions of history, ranging from those that can be dismissed as tales by moonlight to serious and credible stories. Some of the stories are just some versions are motivated by a desire to repair reputation through a rewriting of history, while some authors who are only part of a past, not even a part of a whole, write as if they are whole. However, the whole exercise must be welcome and encouraged. I have read history of the Second World War, written from the perspective of British and American generals, born with very political incompetence. When, on the death of Chief Awolowo in 1987, the then President Babangida, in his tribute, pointed out that Chief Awolowo in his lifetime was the issue in Nigerian national politics. Little did he know that he, General Babangida, would become the issue in Nigerian politics from 1960. Because there were several presidents of France, and since General Salvador, there have been several presidents. However, 45 years after he first became president of France, and 30 years after his death, books are still being written about, and conferences are still being held on General Salvador. And if you want to go even further back, more than 2 centuries after he first became Emperor of France, and 179 years after his death, Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte still captures the imagination of this new millennium. Between these two icons of French history, namely Charles de Gaulle and Napoleon Bonaparte, France is still defined. I make bold to assert that General Ibrahim Babangida has defined Nigeria in a way that no Nigerian head of state before him and after him has done. That in 100 years' time, we are likely to find more books written about General Babangida than about any other Nigerian head of state. General Babangida is such an enigma that I am sure that the present symposium will not shed all the light that we need to understand him and his era. No, that will not happen. However, if at the end of the day, this symposium enables us to understand even a little about him and what is revealed from today, it still has been a worthwhile venture. That official zone, no question zone, the African zone, and even the North Central zone, which I believe to be the major beneficiary of this zone, has been written in the manner of nationality. It is a sign of a high state of insecurity by every nationality in this country. Fair solutions are now being proposed to very serious political problems. Lifelong advocates of democracy are now defining democracy not as one man, one vote, but as one nationality, one vote. What we now call the nationality issue has been with the world, not just in Nigeria, since the creation of man. Of course, what constitutes the nation has always been different. There there was once a Roman nation before there was an Italian nation. There was a nation of France, which also split up into what we now call France and Germany. There were different nations in what we now call England. And I am sure that we can all agree that at the beginning of creation, there were no Fulani, Lupe, Yoruba, Igbo, or Idoma nations, just to mention a few. But by a process of accretion, by a process of amalgamation, nations, as we know them today, emerge only to be followed on as Canada, Sri Lanka, and Nigeria hang in the balance to be decided by how each of these nations handle the nationality. If one were to look for one factor, just one factor, which is responsible for whether a multinational state is successful or not, that factor will have to be federalism. Successful multinational states tend to practice true federalism with a large dose of devolution of power, while failed in multinational states are those who fail to practice true federalism and operated systems which were administered out of
distinguished Nigerians. The executive governor of Plateau State is unavoidably absent. He would have loved to be here in person, and his deputy is currently attending the 19 governors meeting in Kaduna, and I have been directed to come and represent the state government at this occasion. When you talk of IDB and Plateau State, we do not talk of marginalization at all, because important names like General Shagaya, General Don Katbali, General Dogoyaro, General Joe Garba, and the rest come to mind. So IDB occupies a central position as far as Plateau State is concerned. We want to thank the organizers of this symposium for choosing Jos. I'm sure they are aware that IDB is a title folder in Jos. We have the Jerome title, The Sugar of Jos. I therefore, on behalf of His Excellency and the entire peace-loving people of Plateau State, to welcome all our guests and to wish you happy celebration.
Students of history have long postulated that the path of great leaders is, whether religious, social, or political, is often littered with controversies and divisions. Controversies over actions or inactions taken or not taken by them, and prejudices of those who lose certain perceived life, position, or privileges previously applied before the action of those great leaders, or during their life. What has, however, remained constant throughout history is that at the end of the day, history does not indicate the just. History does indicate the just. I think in the case of General Babangida, perhaps the hour of indication is right. It is here
that General Babangida is an individual whose mere mention of his name evokes intense sentiment. To those who take into consideration the tremendous economic, social, and political spending brought about between the period 85 to 93, the Babangida administration was certainly a great success. We can point to quite a number of things that have been executed by that administration. Among these are the political engineering of that period that correctly decipher our tendency to gravitate towards two broad political parties. The social changes, particularly the sanitization of the populace, carried out their civil rights and duties. The economic liberalization program, long before the resurgence and dominance